Hello, Amplify community. I'm Kristen Lisanti. I coach leaders, teams, and organizations to make simple shifts that yield transformative impact. One of my favorite mechanisms in this work is a little thing called mindfulness. You might know mindfulness as a stress reliever, as a self-care practice, as a corporate wellness offering, but today I'm going to invite you to consider mindfulness in a different way, considering how mindful awareness actually elevates our leadership, making us more skillful and more sustainable in how we lead on a day-to-day and moment-to-moment basis. But before we even get into what mindfulness is, let's practice it. Better to learn by doing. So for this practice, you're going to need something to drink. Water, tea, beer, wine, dirty martini, anything at all. We're going to have a drink together, which is something that you all know how to do without paying any attention to it, without giving it a second thought. You can do this on autopilot, and we often do. But today, together, we're going to choose to do it mindfully instead and see what that's like. So if you need to pause this video, go get yourself a drink, go ahead, and we'll begin in just a moment. So once you have your beverage in hand, I'm going to invite you to go ahead and pick it up. And we'll start by bringing our attention directly to this object, but not any normal kind of attention. Instead, we want to bring openness, curiosity, what the Zen Buddhists call beginner's mind, to this mundane, everyday object. All right? Maybe you spend all day, every day with this thing. But can you see it with fresh eyes? Can you get curious about it? I won't be doing anything interesting on the screen, so I really invite you to get involved with this object, even before we take a sip. Look around. What do you notice about this object? What surprises you? Opacity, transparency, color, shape, texture, lettering, design, maybe temperature related to the liquid inside. You might tap on it. What does this object sound like? Or swish it around. Using all of your senses, except for taste, not just yet, to focus in on this object, get to know it. When you're ready, go ahead and bring this object to your lips. But don't yet take a sip. Just hold it there and notice what happens within you. Perhaps all of a sudden you're very thirsty. Perhaps there's some anticipation there or some frustration with your facilitator. Sorry about that. You might notice salivation or some other response. So just noticing not only the detail of what is around us, but also our own response to this action. We're slowing way down so we can notice these things. When you're ready, go ahead and take a sip of your drink. But hold the liquid in your mouth for just a moment. This is giving you a whole new aspect of your experience. Taste, texture, temperature. When you're ready, go ahead and swallow. And notice the absence of that liquid. Notice maybe also the impulse to quickly take another sip. So when you're ready, I invite you to make the conscious choice to slowly, mindfully, and intentionally, on purpose, lift your vessel again and take another sip, tasting the liquid and making a choice about when to swallow to take it into your system. You might notice how this liquid makes you feel, whether it's pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. And while that concludes our practice, you can feel free to keep enjoying it. You, my friends, have just practiced mindfulness, which is basically just the opposite of mindlessness. It's paying attention to what we're paying attention to in a given moment. And that will include what's happening around us in the moment, but also what's happening within us. What activity are we engaged in? What are our senses telling us? What information is here for us to collect? What data might we have missed otherwise if we weren't really paying attention and participating fully? And from there, with all of that new information that we have, what is the skillful next step for us to take? Let's expand and think about it a different way. What would happen if you brought that same quality of attention you just devoted to your tasty beverage, to your next meeting, to your next difficult conversation, to your next quality time with a loved one? How would this affect how you show up? How would this affect the choices that you make as a result? There's a quote that I love from Viktor Frankl, who was an Austrian neurologist, psychologist, author, Holocaust survivor. He is credited as saying, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is the power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom." What mindfulness does for us is it gives us more access to that space to choose between stimulus and how we respond. This is how mindfulness, applied directly in our daily lives and in our leadership, gives us the power to choose how we respond to challenges or to change, how we show up in difficult moments and joyful moments, how we listen and how we learn, and how we lead. So in closing, I want to offer you one more practice. And this one is a microdose of mindfulness. You can use this anytime when you want to snap out of autopilot, ground yourself, make a skillful, sustainable choice. It's an acronym called STOP, and it stands for S, stop what I'm doing, just for a moment. You can do stop in 5 seconds. Nobody needs to know you're doing it. T, take a breath. Really, bring your attention into the body on that inhale and exhale. Trick for your nervous system, make your exhale nice and slow, long and slow, follow it all the way to the bottom. That sends a signal to your amygdala, the fight or flight part of your brain, and your nervous system overall that you are not in danger. You can ease if that's what's needed. But the O is the big one. We've stopped, we've taken a breath. O stands for observe. Observe what's happening in reality, friends. So we're shifting out of the story that's playing in our mind. Maybe it's a swirl up there in a stressful moment. We're connecting to the reality of the moment. We're looking around with curiosity. Where am I? What's happening? But also within, and noticing how we're feeling physically, how we're feeling emotionally right now. And then we can proceed, with a little bit more space and a whole lot more choice. It sounds so simple, and it is simple, but it's in the practice of stop, as with all mindfulness practices, that we are able to actually begin to make those small shifts that have a transformative impact. So the next time you're about to hit send on that frustrated email, or offer feedback that might be tough for someone to hear, or take on a task because it's just easier if I do it myself, give yourself the space to stop, the perspective that you need, and the power to choose how you respond. So thank you for your attention, your energy, and your time today. These are your most precious resources, and I appreciate you sharing them with me. Take good care.